Hello. To answer the first and third question really combined, overall, I mean, this whole course is just based on empathy, which is awesome for me. That's just the way that I always think and operate, and it was fantastic to gain that whole perspective and have this course being structured around what the buyer thinks and what the buyer wants. And I think ultimately that's a huge differentiating factor. It's not so much me talking about my company, what I can provide from them, hearing the perspective of they hear the same story from everyone else. They don't really care. But it's talking about the company and that I'm truly invested in their company. And I know for that reason, I can provide a value. So I think that whole strategy mentality is huge. In general, I got a lot out of the communication and disarming tactics. The various email templates for me were huge. All the objection handling, it's just it provided a very clear cut messaging that I can just instill and not create bad habits, but just instill in my brain permanently. And it's just part of my day to day language and conversation. And especially me having not a ton of experience, it's just that's my foundation. And I think that gives me a lot to work with, and only get more confident from there. Um, I did notice a lot of the modules and conversations were strongly tailored towards the contracting side, which is, I mean, contracts king. So that's what we really want everyone to be focused on. But in some areas, like my practice, for example, it is a lot more. There is a heavier emphasis on the direct hire business. So I think providing some scenarios, whether it be in the modules or part of the calls on how we handle the direct hire business, would be valuable. And perhaps those courses exist. I know we didn't do everything, but that would be something that would have been nice to have. And then I felt like the second half of all of our courses just flowed a lot differently. I think the content became a lot more granular. That said, I didn't feel any of it was unnecessary by any means, but it just made those weekly calls then feel a little bit less productive. I think when we get that granular, we definitely get the concepts, but then when we relearn what we've just discussed, I think that's difficult. So maybe finding avenues to make those weekly calls still engaging and different, and provide a different type of value. So an idea I might have, and this ties into the second question, maybe making some of the assigned content mission CTAs more of a group exercise. So we could go through and each person's going to take their time to fill out one. We'll discuss maybe other answers we might have used or what have you. We can use someone's client as an example, and then we complete those together versus going through the same content that everyone should have spent an hour or more learning about on their own. So leading into the missions and CTAs, I thought they were great. Obviously, my contributions tailored off a little bit more towards the end. The volume would feel overwhelming at times, and it became difficult to prioritize. Winning business. Gaining business, closing orders, finding candidates to fill those orders, and find time to set aside to do the missions, or excuse me, the courses, and then notice that I've got a pile of missions as well. And I think if there's just two or three that are there for me to work on, it becomes much less of a daunting task. And again, that all comes down to my prioritization. So I take full responsibility for that. But again, some of those assignments, especially the ones that if we're typing out exactly how we would respond to something, and then go through that, and then we have to give a video presentation on the exact same thing. Just making the assignments a little bit more unique, and like I mentioned, if they were split up maybe on some of those calls, and make it a little bit less daunting to me. And again, it's a prioritization issue, but also help get some more value out of those calls. Again, especially towards the end. Um, So the fourth question, it definitely made me a lot more confident in the value that I am portraying to our clients. I'm able to build very quick rapport. I can tell that our clients definitely value me as an actual partner versus maybe just another vendor. It also gave me a lot more confidence in controlling the conversation. I've got an itinerary in my head of how it's going to go, how I'm going to communicate with you, so you're giving me everything that I need, and you feel confident that I'm able to answer everything that you may need. And I also don't set myself up to get caught, because I'm talking about the company, not so much their company, not so much my company. Um, but that also, allows them to have a lot of faith in allowing me to control the whole process. And then my whole, as far as what's changed, things that I've changed day to day, my entire cold call and email messaging strategy is entirely different. I've gone a lot more on the recruiting side, unfortunately, so I don't have a lot of tangible results, just given that I had tailored this last half of the course really almost entirely recruiting. But again, my whole mentality on how to approach clients, I mean, it just gives me a lot more confidence that they're going to be interested in what I have to say, and I'm not just another cold calling vendor that they get 100 of. So anyway, um, and then as far as just tangible examples, I definitely feel, I mentioned in one of our calls that we got an exclusivity agreement. We were able to kind of negotiate that and position ourselves as industry experts that know what the industry looks like. They kind of reached out to us, but after we're able to deliver on that, the client has taken, he's become a internal coach or cheerleader for us. And he's given me heads up on opportunities. If we get a resume, send him over. He's going to push HR to allow us to have the right to work that position, and that's worked. My candidate just interviewed yesterday. We've also gotten, because of our ability to deliver, another exclusivity agreement in place that we're currently working with them on. And once we get this wrapped up, we're going to gain a value proposition or a customer success story from them, just so we can start sharing that with all of our other clients, especially in my vertical. It's going to be huge because of how niche this type of development candidate was. And I was also able to meet with another client who reached out to me just to ask me, what does the industry look like for this? I've got to go talk to my manager about, you know, the budget for this type of resource, what we can get for this type of resource, and it just allowed me to position myself not just as a staffing vendor and account manager, but I mean truly provide solutions, and that's something that I hadn't really thought of. But again, it's just a matter of changing that mentality and building rapport by being empathetic. So those are my overall thoughts. Definitely valuable for me. And that's all I got. I went over 3 minutes.